Okay. Does it hurt?
No, I didn't feel it. I
Okay.
don't. Yeah.
Hello, welcome back to Solid Ground. This week we're taking a look at the fifth commandment. It's interesting what Jesus does when he's teaching on the fifth commandment. He's talking about not murdering somebody. He takes it from the obvious and he makes it, well, he takes it to a place that's not so obvious. He points out that if you are even saying you fool to somebody, you're violating this commandment. Now that sounds a little radical, that sounds a little crazy to think that if all I'm doing is calling somebody a fool, is that the same thing as killing them? Is that the same thing as murder? Well, in a way, no. But when you think about it, it's still a violation because the purpose and what Luther explores when he's looking at this particular commandment is he's looking at the idea that the goal is to uplift the life of the person. It's not enough, really, to simply refrain from harming or refrain from killing them or murdering them. It is instead to help to protect and uplift their life. So Jesus is pointing out that what we want to do in this process is to so far remove ourselves from any way in which we denigrate another person, so that we uplift them in their life in such a way that we're not anywhere close to wanting to strike them and to harm them and to potentially hurt them to the point of murder. The Old Testament goes through all sorts of laws and stipulations with regard to intentional murder, which is what we would call it, or like an accidental killing, and what the different rules and so forth were. But Jesus really gets to the heart of it, and he focuses not so much on what you're not to do, but really how are you to care for each other? How are you to speak of one another so that you uplift their life, so that you care for them, so that people around them look at those people in a positive light? Because I think that's a part that's just as important. It's not just what we say and what we do, it's how what we say and what we do impact those around us and how they deal with other people, and the way in which we look at people and treat people and talk about people who look, act, think, behave differently than we do also has an impact here. If we start running each other down culturally, this runs the risk of violating this commandment as well, in the concern that we're running down, speaking ill of, and devaluing the humanity of another. That's the main thrust, that's the main purpose behind this commandment, is to uplift the humanity, the fellow humanity, and the image of God in each of us. We wouldn't harm the image of God in God. We wouldn't want the image of God in us harmed. Therefore, we ought to avoid at all costs harming the image of God in anyone else. God bless, and I'll see you next week.